You know I'm rolling. That's why I'm doing it, because it takes you forever to get ready after I have to get the lights ready.
Just need
And
to
the
fix
audio.
my hair and stuff.
She's been combing out her hair now for at least...
Have
Yes,
it.
you have. At least 15 to 20 minutes you've been combing your hair out.
It gets really naughty.
You're a YouTube celebrity
Welcome
now.
back, everyone.
We missed a week.
Yeah, we did. That's all your fault.
No, it's not my fault. I don't even know why we missed a week. You weren't available. I was at the dentist, and then it all fell through. So it just went downhill quick. If you didn't know, I had Invisalign in. It was supposed to be for 6 months originally.
6 months.
And and it was driving me. I never had real bad teeth, but if you go back, I'm sure somebody noticed, because everybody noticed everything on YouTube. I had a couple like off here or there. I'm like, oh, this will be a quick, easy fix. 2.5 years later of having retainers, liners in, I'd pop them out for YouTube all the time. Finally done. Now I have perfect pearly whites.
Yeah, they look great. You can tell a huge difference. When I look
The
back,
dentist was sick of me. He
dentist
said he
did
was
not
going to
like
stab
you.
me at one point. We have a good relationship.
Dan is
at
a
this
very
point.
difficult patient.
Yeah. All right, let's get into let's get into today's topic first, and then we will do whatever else, because I'm sure you have questions or updates. You want to give them updates about the week?
I don't really have any updates.
Okay.
Do you have updates about the week? Just busy social media updates and
Yeah.
you filming, and
That's
about it.
Yeah. I think that the camera situation with John the cameraman, I think we got that all squared away. If you don't follow us on Instagram and Facebook and watch our YouTube shorts, you need to do that, because we have a good time with all that stuff. So I think that's about it. Let's go right into questions.
Well, I think before we get started with the questions, I mean, this is a question, but we said last time that we would talk about this, basically just about Coalcracker and how did Coalcracker get started. A lot of people are asking. I think you gave a short overview, but you've never really went into depth with how we started.
Okay. So this is probably 2 to 3 beer listening segment. So I'll start right at the beginning.
Yeah, it's very interesting. I think people will
And
be
we'll
able
roll
to
through. Yeah.
really relate.
All right. History of Coalcracker. All right. So the history of me, like my whole little story here. So we're going to start with what is Coalcracker, because that's a question we get asked often. And unless you came to a course, you probably never heard the backstory of Coalcracker itself. So that's a regional thing from where I was born and raised here. We're Coalcrackers. Everybody that's in this entire region goes by that. We just use the term, and we're like, that is, it sums us up. So where does that come from? So I live in Monte City, Pennsylvania. Well, that's where I grew up. I live in Ringtown, Pennsylvania now. And we are in the anthracite coal region of Pennsylvania. So there's 2 types of coal, the black stuff that comes up out of the ground that we dig and mine. There's anthracite coal, which is considered hard coal, and there's bituminous coal, which is considered soft coal. Soft coal sort of looks like charcoal briquettes, sort of, whereas anthracite coal looks like a diamond that would be black, very shiny and very slick. Even if you rub it, you really don't get dirty from the coal itself. Although coal's dirty, the diamond-looking chunks of anthracite coal, it doesn't make it. It's not like bituminous. So that's specific to this region. Like if you get anthracite coal from anywhere, it's coming from here. So that's what the area is known for. So back during the big coal boom in the late 1800s, early 1900s, they would deep mine, at like underground mine the coal out. It would come in big chunks from the miners, and they would send it to these big factories that were, these places were huge. And they would take these chunks of coal into these factories, and they would break the coal down in different sizes, because they would use it for home heating or for heating in factories and things like that. So it had to be broken in different size. They called that cracking the coal. So people outside this area referred to everybody in this area as coalcrackers. So that's where that name came from. People in this area, I mean, they're very proud of the heritage here. If you grew up here, very strong-willed and like hardworking. So it fits really well, and that's what we started with. To go a little bit further with that, my buddy Dan, who we're going to have on the podcast, he originally said we should, when we just had a little outdoor club, it was only me and him. That was the outdoor club. He wanted us to be called Coalcracker Coalition, but then we changed it over to Coalcracker Bushcraft. Probably in the future, and we'll just be Coalcracker, right? That's the sort of direction we're heading, because we expand stuff out. We do survival, we do self-reliance, we do preparedness, all that kind of stuff. So we're known as Coalcracker. So that's where Coalcracker came from. So how did it come about, though, the business itself? So like I said, I grew up here. The towns are very little small, like what we call patch towns. There's not a lot of people in the towns. Outside of the town is all woodland and coal mine. That's what we got. So I spent a lot of time there in the woods. My grandfather was one of the first people, well, he was the first person to really get me involved in the outdoors. He would take me from when I was little. I had to be as early as I can remember. So like 4 years old, I remember packing a backpack up and going out hiking with him and going fishing with him and my nan. And I had such a good time, but I'd always end up just playing in the woods more than I'd end up doing anything else. So I always had this like passion for being in the woods. Now, while that's all going on, my Uncle Joe, he always was into military stuff. And this was back, you have to figure, in the mid-'80s to early 90s. When all the good military surplus was out, like good surplus. Like you go to a good surplus store and it was like a gold mine. I can remember going to some of them. He would always give me military equipment from these surplus stores. Even Christmas time, he would give me the catalog from U.S. Cavalry. I'd circle the stuff I want, and I'd get military surplus stuff. So I was a huge fan of Rambo, Commando, Chuck Norris, all those guys. So I love the military stuff, and I love the outdoors. So it sort of just came over the years of like, I wanted to learn more about survival, and I would take my fake guns into the woods and do that kind of stuff. Growing up, I was always like the woods guy with all my friends. Like I just took on that role, even though looking back, I didn't know anything really, right? I just always took on the role like I knew, and I'd always have survival kits built and backpacks loaded up, and everybody just came to know like, hey, if you're going in the woods and you're with Dan, he knows what he's doing. Probably not, but that was the persona I took on. So that went all through, even through high school and stuff. We'd go play like big games of Manhunt, and I was like the guy you want to be with, right? So that's toot my own horn, like over that. But point being, I was an outdoors guy always. Hunted, I fished, all that kind of good stuff. Super obsessed with the military through life. So it got to the point, high school, I was starting to decide, the push at my house with my parents was they didn't go to college, that I should go to college, which, okay. So the plan was always go to college, but I remember I was like fascinated with the Navy SEALs. Like I was a really good swimmer from a little kid. My neighbor had a pool, swim team, all that kind of stuff. I was lifeguard. I taught swimming. And so I think that's what appealed to me, was like this whole water element of like combat and stuff like that. So I really, really, really was like, I want to be a Navy SEAL. Literally clueless. Now that I'm older and I look, I don't think I ever would have made it through BUD/S. I didn't have the mental mindset at that point to like do that. Physically, I wasn't there. I just didn't have it. I would have never probably made it through. But we'll talk about that in a second. But point being, I was to the point I had a Navy recruiter came to our house and sat down, and they're like, hey, this is all the physical fitness stuff you need for BUD/S. This is all everything. Well, I thought my parents their heads were going to explode. And not that they're anti-military, they were anti-me being in the military at that time, because they were like, listen, our whole like goal here was to get you to go to college, right? They felt that was what I needed to do. So the plan was, you can go to college, and when you get done, whatever you want to do then, you can do. So I was like, all right, well, that's what I'm going to do. So I went to college. I took ROTC classes. I wasn't in ROTC. I took ROTC classes. I would still go out in the woods. I was in the ROTC club. We would do all kind of like fun military stuff, like the fun stuff. We'd shoot guns, paint our faces, do obstacle courses, all this kind of cool stuff. Absolutely loved it. And then around like junior year, I just got into other stuff. Like I really got into fitness. I got into powerlifting. My like passion for like military and outdoors, it like faded drastically for some reason. And there was nothing specific that really happened. I just went away. And that went away until probably around 2 years after I got out of college. It was just a bizarre time then. I met my wife during that time. I was working at a juvenile facility during that time, and no interest in the military. I always think back this, though. If I would have probably went and, let's say, some crazy reason I made it through BUD/S, I probably would have, 9/11 just happened, so I definitely would have been deployed. Maybe it was in my calling to not do that, right? Because maybe I wouldn't be here today. Who knows? But for some reason, none of that played out. So I ended up, after about 2 years in the workforce, I had money. I was dating my wife. I was into partying, nice car, nice clothes. We're going all over the place. I started to like find the woods again because I was getting bored right away with work. And now I'm only in the workforce like 2 years, and I already had enough of it. So I really got into shooting because when I was younger, I would hunt and I would take my .22 rifle out and shoot. And I always wanted a sniper rifle, but I never had money to like set up a good long range rifle. And I'm like, wow, wait a minute. I work now. I have money. I can do this. So I bought an AR-15. I bought a Glock. I set up a long-range 308. Started doing that. Met a new group of guys that I'm still friends with till today. They were super into the tactical stuff. All my passion and love for like military kind of stuff and outdoor stuff came back with a vengeance. And I'm going to say it was probably about 2007 that I like took a deep dive into all of this. So I'm like super into the guns. I'm going to a ton of trainings. I'm with all the top trainers. I'm going to their classes all over the country. I'm flying all over the place, taking these classes. And then it so happens that I'm at a sniper competition as a civilian with my one friend. It's in West Virginia. There was a place called Storm Mountain. Storm Mountain, it's up on top of this mountain in West Virginia, and we're just doing awesome, right? It's everything from clearing these like shoot houses to target ID to movers, you name it, it's there. Like straight up sniper competition. We get to the point where we're going to do the stalking exercise. So what the stalking exercise is, for those of you that don't know, it was based the same as a stalking lane as they do in the military. So you put your ghillie suits on, you start back. I think that we were at like 1,200 yards. You had to get, and then there's guys at the other end sitting at the 0 yard line. So I'm 1,200 yards back, 0 yard line. And the goal here is to get up within 300 yards, take a shot, and you shoot just a blank, and then they see if they can find you, and there's more rules to it, but that's the gist of it. So being a civilian, never going through anything, I don't know what I'm doing other than like reading stuff in books. And at this point, internet was just starting to come around. There wasn't a ton of information like there is now. So my friend and I, they blow the whistle to start, and when they start, the guys at the 0 yard line, they're off. They don't look where anybody's at. So everybody starts running, and now we're with all like military and law enforcement guys. We're the only civilians there of the whole competition. They all start like running, and they're running, and I didn't realize that because they're not at the 0 yard line watching, everybody just runs and gets as close as they can to start. And then they're like watching their clock, and then when they know it's close to time, then they start getting in good positions and sneaking around. Well, we don't do that. So we're like way back. I don't even think we made it 200 yards. We're like super slow moving, not watching our clock. And the spotters that are walking around the field are screaming for us because the time limit's up. So again, we're not watching our clocks. We're hiding. They can't find us. They finally find us. It's about 15 minutes after we should have been like done and out because the time limit's up. And this guy is he's on us. He's screaming and yelling, like what you would think from like a drill sergeant kind of thing, right? So he's yelling and he's screaming at us, don't we watch our ticker? And I'm like, what's a ticker? Like, I'm so frustrated because we were doing well. Now this drops our like overall ranking way down. And the point of this story is we're walking out because this was literally a huge turning point. So we start walking out of this sniper stalking lane, and we're on this dirt road, and I say to him, this guy who's ranting and raving, one of the like people there that are judging, I go, we hit this fork in the road. This is like the fork in the road in my life, maybe. We hit this fork, and I said to him, I said, which way do we go? Like, literally, it's not that I felt I was lost, nothing. And this guy says to me, he says, you're at an effing sniper competition, and you don't know to follow the four-wheeler tracks out of here. What the hell are you even doing here? Rage comes over me because I'm like, this is what? I'm thinking in my head, like, this is the craziest thing. So I'm like enraged, right? Get back on the bus to go back to the shooting facility because it was off the shooting facility where we did this. This guy's ranting and raving on the bus about other stuff, and I'm going to punch this guy in the face. I'm like so wound up. So we get back home, and it's like bugging me. And I thought, I'm so much better in the woods than I let on out there. That I need to start hanging out in the woods, spending more time in the woods because I grew up in the woods. Like, how do I not know this stuff? And it just stuck with me. So I started going out in the woods. I got out my little survival kits I always built, and I went out. I'll never forget. I went to Locust Lake State Park on the one hiking trail, and I got out my fire starting kit, and it's not working. Like, I can't get the fire going. And then I'm like checking out all my shelter stuff. I don't use any, put it away. And I said to my friend Dan Valinsky, I said, let's put bug out bags together and let's use them. Put these bug out bags together. It's a couple weeks later. We go out. It's November. Nightmare. I couldn't set up a shelter to save my life. And the shelter was just a tarp. I didn't know what I was doing. We tried to get a fire going and boil water. Nightmare material. We're on the edge of this huge mountain, so the wind's just killing us. It's cold. My only blanket that I brought with me was a Harbor Freight moving blanket. So imagine that night, what that was going to turn out like. Horrible. So we last probably 3 hours out there. It gets dark. His headlamp, I think, went dead. Just nightmare of a whole training exercise. So we get a ride back. We hike out, get picked up, go back. It lit a fire under my butt. So I was like, something has to change here because I spent all these years in the woods and I was like known as the woods guy. I was always into camping, even through that weird stage of my life, always into camping. Get to the point here where I'm like, something's got to give. So I do a deep dive, and the deep dive started right around that 2007 mark, I said. And I was fully immersed in bushcraft and survival for a solid 10 years, like solid. I lived it. I breathed it. It was everything. I would wake up early in the morning to get out in the woods or trap or hunt, work, and after work, I would go out in the woods till it was dark. To the point towards that end of that 10-year immersion, I had 1 year I spent 233 nights in the woods. Can you imagine? I mean, that's a lot of nights out in the woods camping. I don't know, like Brooke, I don't know how she stayed with me because, I mean, that's what I did. That is what I did. And that's where a lot of my learning came in, and that's where a lot of the things that I started to process and figure out started to come about. I took courses at different schools. I worked with Dave for a while at his school, and I ended up getting laid off at the juvenile facility I worked at, which it was going downhill for a couple years. I think because I was young. I mean, you know this, but I mean, what am I going to do? Like jump around jobs? I didn't really care that much. So I end up getting laid off, and I was just going to collect unemployment because I was just very burned out, very stressed out about the whole getting laid off. First time. I mean, imagine even though I've been working at this job for years now, it was stressful to lose your job and stuff like that. I don't know what's going to happen. I'm already married. I had a kid at this point. So That would have been around 2017, if I could remember correctly. And I got a call a week later after starting to collect unemployment about the show alone. Went on the show alone. While I was on the show, you can't have pen or paper. So I did last 51 days while I was there. I was starving to death for sure. I would have never made it. In our season, Zach won. I think it was 83 days. They would have pulled me before that because I was literally starving to death. I would have never had enough calories left in my body to go that long. But every night to pass time, I would lay in my shelter and I would think, okay, so these are the skills that I'm using now in this situation. And that was probably the closest situation other than truly being in a real life survival situation that you're going to get. So I knew, like, hey, what's going on? What am I using? What am I not using? What's gimmicky in the industry and what's real? And that's how I developed all my courses. I would sit and rehearse these things in my head over and over to the point when I finally left the show the first night in the hotel. I'll never forget. I was at the hotel. I had like a half of this like chicken bacon sandwich thing and some French fries. I couldn't eat a lot. I'd get sick. I'd eat like 4 or 5 French fries and think I was going to puke because I didn't eat for days. Some kind of crazy robot show was on TV. Like I could remember what the hotel room looked like, and I had this like little scrap pieces of, and I still have them. They're like this big pieces of hotel paper with this like pencil that I was sharpening on the edge. They didn't have a pen there. They had a pencil. And I got to remember in Patagonia, I'm sharpening on the edge of the bed frame. Like that's how I was sharpening up the pencil. And I wrote out all the programs and the class descriptions and what they should look like. I did that the first night, and that was it. And they changed a little bit, but the core components are still in those courses from that experience. But jumping back just a little bit, when I got done with the show, that trip home from Patagonia back to United States in the airports, I started Googling how to make a website. I looked back at some of the websites in the shooting industry that I really liked and that I was involved with years ago. Found a web designer, got a website started, and then I jumped all the way in, and that was it. And it's hard, and sometimes it was easy, and sometimes it was really hard. It's a lot harder than it's easy most of the time, but Brooke's really supportive of me. My family's supportive of me with the stuff, and you need to just stick it out. And I think if your back isn't against the wall, sometimes stuff doesn't work. And my back was definitely against the wall. I mean, I was to the point I had no money. Brooke was working, so she was sort of taking care of everything plus me in this crazy business venture, and I just had to grind away at it. And now we're lucky enough she's with me full time, and we do this, and my mom works for us, and I have employees and all this cool stuff, and that is how Coalcracker started. I think that really sums it up. I know a little bit long of a story, but definitely interesting and fun. And now I'm a YouTuber, I'm an author, we can say I guess I'm a podcaster at this point. I have the business, and we run other businesses, and it's a pretty cool life.
Okay, so that was a lot of information about Coalcracker. Very interesting. Good information.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's my whole story, though. I don't think I missed anything. That was pretty thorough, but other than maybe the timeline's like a year off here or there. I think otherwise everything is pretty good, and we just keep rolling along. So life is a wild ride for sure.
Yeah, and if you have any questions about what Dan just explained, you can put them in the comment section, and we can address those next week. Yes,
for sure. So I do want to bring up one thing, though, before we do that. So we're finishing up this podcast today, and then I'm heading out with Instructor Dave to Alabama.
For almost Arkansas. 1 week.
Dave dies because I say Alabama. We're going to Arkansas.
I don't think you know where you're going or when you're leaving or how long.
Dave is in charge of that because you're usually in charge of that. But we are going because people keep asking. They're like, well, so, all right, if you saw the Ruck Pack video with the Marine Corps Ruck Pack, I did do an updated pack with my new Mystery Ranch bag that I love. The loadout for the class. The class is not, people were like, why is this such a secret class? It's not. It's the Direct Action Resource Center. They call it DARC, D-A-R-C, Direct Action Resource Center. And the course that I'm taking is Tusk. And it's basically, if something bad would happen, man-made or natural disaster type of situation, and you're rebuilding community, what does that look like, and how do you operate in there? So I'm excited because I feel like it's going to really open my eyes up to a whole new spectrum of things that I've been thinking about, and I just haven't put them all together, meaning survival, long-term survival, like self-reliance. How does all that work together, and how do the pieces fit together for people? So hopefully I make it back. They say it's a real intense course, so I'm ready for it.
Yeah, let's hope you come back.
She's rolling her eyes. She knows I'm physically.
He's been preparing for this.
My legs are like pissed.
Is Dave ready to go? He's prepared for what to expect.
I don't know. Dave says yes.
Good luck, Dave.
All right, let's get into questions now.
Okay, your first question. Somebody asked, what was your first piece of merchandise that you sold at Coalcracker Bushcraft? This is an interesting story.
Well, there was a couple, because when we launched the website, we put a couple things on there. So some of them included, but I'm going to say what I would say was the first thing. Belt pouch was something I made on my own, and I was making them for friends. That went on the website first. That was like our first developed made product. We got T-shirts. We had more knives, and we had stainless steel water bottles from Clean Canteen. And
I thought that was our first product.
No, because they all went on at the same time. Like when we launched the first website, all of that stuff was on there. So
I don't remember that.
The first made product that we made was the belt pouch, and then like signature items, I would say, with our logo on, were the shirts and the water bottles. The water bottles, I'm like, this is going to be great. People are going to love these things. So I got 2 different sizes, and like a normal large company, Clean Canteen, you have to buy a lot, and I think we had to buy 500 or 1,000, which was a lot for us then because we had no customer base whatsoever. We were to the point they were everywhere, and we were selling them at a loss because I was like, we just need to get rid of this. I need money. This is a nightmare. And we had
probably the worst purchase.
Oh, it was so bad. I feel like now if we did it, it would be way better.
Yeah.
But we have a lot more customers. But then it was horrible, and it used up so much of the money that I had to like start the business. It makes me sweat thinking about it.
Yeah.
It was horrible.
You still have any of those?
I do. The good old days. I don't know if they were
wonder if any of our first customers have one.
I'm sure people have those, and
Daniel Bombard. I'm going to call him out here.
Does he have one?
I don't know. He might have one.
Yeah. So if he would probably have one. I know Mike Asper, the instructor Mike, he has. I'm almost positive one of those. I always laugh though because I think about when I first started sewing. I would never put something out and be like, oh, I'm like getting over on people, like just put it out the door. I would try my absolute hardest, and we did the best we could. But some of them original little zipper pouch bags, I'm sure that they didn't even last a month. Now looking back, I was like, I cringed. And what are you going to do? At the moment, I was like, these are great. I would use them, and they were fine. And then over some duration, I was like, ugh.
Well, we learned a lot.
Learned a lot. Okay.
To say the least.
On to the next.
Okay. Where did you find your instructors, and how do you determine that they will be your instructor?
So, excuse me. To become an instructor, when we very first started the school, it was friends I went out in the woods with. I mean, nobody came through any courses. So as we developed the courses, what we look for is people who have taken all of our core classes. So our basic and advanced bushcraft and our bushman course and our survival class. And then from there, first of all, most people we like and get along with. I make the judgment, and this is not, I don't want to say this to hurt anybody's feelings, because a lot of people went through all our courses. I have to make a judgment. Are you a very interactive person with other people that it's enjoyable to be around you? So I'm not saying they're not enjoyable to be around, but not everybody's, just because you know content doesn't mean you're going to be a really good teacher. There's a lot of things that go into being a good teacher. So I sort of assess your personality, and then a big one is your personality going to clash with my personality, because I'm not going anywhere. So I have a strong personality, so I need something to complement that. Like Brooke always says, like, to ground me. So my instructors help with that a little bit, and I bring them along. At first, they don't realize they need to do that. Now, like Mike knows how to bring me down a couple notches.
Mike's been one of the originals.
Mike was there with Dan originally.
When you were introduced
so, yes.
to Mike by one of your other friends.
Yep. So Mike has been there, since the beginning, basically. So once I determine that, I'll say, hey, come back and start helping. And then we just see how you interact with the other instructors and the students. And then if all that goes smooth, we bring you up to speed and we start having you teach lessons. And then we say you're an instructor.
And most instructors have taken most of your classes?
They all have taken everything.
Yeah.
Yeah, they all have taken all the courses. Okay. Yep. And the reason there's a lot of people ask all the time about that. And they're like, well, I took a lot of other classes, but we have a system. Even it might be not that much different from other people, it's still a system. And you have to have some devotion level to the company itself. Like if you're like, well, I took Frankie J's survival course in California. Well, thanks for supporting us. Now you want me to pay as an instructor. Like there has to be some reciprocation there. So that's what we do with the instructors. Yep.
Okay, this next question.
When you laugh before a question, I'm like, here it comes.
I wonder if you know what this means.
I'm sure I do.
Okay.
Let's see.
Somebody wants to know if we are casting from a gulag. Do you know what a gulag is?
No. Okay, I thought I would know. I have no idea what a gulag is. Does it have to do with our set that Brooke put her foot down and said, it can't be this weekend or next. We're actually cleaning out and we're going to start working on a better set.
Yeah.
Because I love doing this and I need an area for also gear and like layout stuff. John agrees too.
Yeah, well.
But is a gulag, what is it? Did you look it up?
I had to Google this. Actually, I had to Google how to pronounce
gulag.
This word.
Okay.
Gulag. I'm pretty sure I'm pronouncing that correctly. It's some kind of like forced labor camp in the Soviet Union, like back in the
because of the set.
In the mid 1900s.
They're acting like we're in a dungeon and your leg is chained. Who wrote that? You're chained up down here. And then I leave and I go party.
They can't see underneath here.
I wish if you would have did this, I don't know the questions, ahead of time, you should have had a chain and you could have like rattled it through the thing.
Well,
that is hilarious.
Yeah.
Some people love who did I just talk to? And they're like, no, I love that background. They're like, it's so like raw and rustic. And then other people are just having an absolute coronary over it.
Okay.
All right. So yeah, we're not in
a gulag.
We're not in a gulag. I'll use that a lot now. Okay. Next one.
When will you and your wife do a survival video?
Never.
Never.
She doesn't like the woods.
That's not true.
No, she likes, it has to be perfect weather. Everything has to be set up for her. And then she just wants good food and Corona Light, and then you're happy.
Well, we did talk about,
That's true. See how she ignored the question.
We did talk about, with my son and Dan, about me creating a backpack. Actually, remember we talked about this?
No, this is all new to me.
No, it's not. I'm going to create a backpack and put all of the stuff that I would need to survive in the backpack. Oh, without your help.
I thought you meant create a backpack like at the shop. You're going to go downstairs here and you're going to like roll out a roll of material with like a square and scissors, and you're just ripping stuff on a Juki sewing machine. So she's going to put together like a get home bag.
Yes.
That
to keep in my car.
Yes. So why don't we, when you put that together, do a video on it, and then you can go out by yourself for a night on the property and stay out with it.
They think it's funny because they have no idea what I'm going to pack in this bag. But it would be things that I definitely would need to have. I would love to know what she does.
Name one thing you definitely need.
Chapstick.
So you can put the rest of the pieces in play. What's going to be in this bag? It's going to be wild. That is a good video we're going to do. While I'm gone on my training exercise, why don't you put the bag together?
Okay.
But don't have Jax help you, because Jax's bag's pretty dialed in.
No one's going to help me do this.
Okay.
I'm going to think about what essentials I need.
You're like a Diet Pepsi, a Celsius.
No, I wouldn't have any of that stuff.
Okay.
None of that.
Okay.
Definitely like an extra pair of socks.
So maybe that'll happen. Now I feel like we're talking her into it.
Okay.
Okay.
Somebody wants to know why your belt pouch is so expensive.
Why the belt pouch? Well, first, leather is expensive. So that is the first thing. The second thing is I do make them by hand. So I cut them, I lace them all, I do everything on them, and they just take time. I mean, there's antler on them. I drill everything out by hand, so it just takes time. The leather's expensive, and the tools that we do use to put them together, they're expensive. So I always think, because when we first started making knives, people were like, well, your knives are expensive. I could make that, and they would list out what they can make it for. Yes, but anything that you're making, for the most part, other than if it's Chinese trash, like, you can probably buy the materials cheaper, but then it's like the skill set to make it, and the time to make it, and the tools to make it. So people just don't take that in consideration. So that's the reasoning behind it. And they literally will last you a lifetime plus some.
Yes. Despite your love of nature, do you spend the majority of the time of your year living in an urban or suburban area?
So where we live is very rural. Like, there's small little towns, very little towns. And we live on the school property, so it's like farmland all around us. So we don't spend a lot of time in cities or around a lot of people.
We used to. When we first started dating. We spent a lot of time, I feel like, in cities.
Yeah, yes. But we
Right?
just talked about that when I said about my history. I had that weird
Yeah.
segment of my life. And here we are. Do you feel like if you would have met me in my full-blown Bushman years, you still would have been like, I'm going to date this guy?
I'm not sure. I feel
You
like we
wouldn't
were
have.
both different when we first met.
Yes.
We've changed. We've evolved over the years together.
Yes.
Definitely.
Yes. I agree.
Yeah. What is the optimal direction for a lean-to shelter?
I don't know why I'm like, but you always want to use your lean-to to block wind. So that's number one. If you're blocking the wind, rain generally comes the same direction as wind, so you're protected. So if the wind's blowing this way, the back of your shelter is here. The wind should be hitting the back of your shelter all the time.
Somebody wants to know, can you really sleep out in minus temperatures with just a wool blanket?
So my answer to that would be, it depends what the minus temperatures are, and it would depend on the type of wool blanket or blankets that you have. So there's some variables there. I would say generally, if you're like, hey, just a normal, like, king size wool blanket, it's -5 degrees Fahrenheit, you're probably going to have a really cold night. So part of that, though, is we almost always in cold temperatures are teaming a wool blanket up with a campfire. So if you do that, yes, you can definitely do that.
Okay. And last question.
Okay.
Where is the camo oilcloth haversack?
It's coming. I'm going to say was it 3 weeks ago? Machine number
Yes.
1 goes down. This is sewing machine number 1 goes down. Sewing machine number 2 goes down. Sewing machine number 3 goes down. And they're like, the bar tack machine was one of them. Sensor errors. So nothing that I can do. The other machines, the timing went out. It was like bing, boom, boom, all in a row. So I had to take some of them to the shop to get fixed by a professional. We tried to fix the other ones in shop, so it just held up the whole process. We had to get the bar tacking, so on the back of the haversacks where the strap comes down onto the haversack itself, those X squares, they're done on a specific, it's a bar tacking machine. We got that all reprogrammed and resized, so they are currently in the process of being embroidered, and then they will be ready to go, along with the camo.
They're really nice.
They are
I think
sick.
you guys are
like,
really
we
gonna,
took them up to the next level of like
they're
perfection.
Really, I think you guys will like them.
And then we also have the cabin packs coming in camo, and they are slick. They are awesome. They're sitting on the shelf. Again, that was another machine issue. We're waiting on one last part, and then they'll be done for that machine. Those things, when I walk by them, I just like stare at them.
The camo material is just really nice.
I know, it's awesome.
It's my favorite.
Yeah. Yes, it is. It's awesome. What do they call that? God's plaid or something? Camouflage?
Do they?
Yeah. Yeah, especially
I never
woodland
heard that
camo.
before.
Yeah, it's awesome.
God's
Plaid.
God's plaid.
Yeah, I think that's what they call it.
Who calls it that?
Like all the cool guys.
Who's
Like
the
when I
cool
go to
guy?
classes, all the cool guys, I'm hanging out with the classes.
Like the cool kids.
Yes, we are the cool kids. We are the
I'm
cool
gonna look
kids
that
for
up.
sure. Look it up. I think that's accurate.
Okay.
That's
Thanks
it.
for joining us.
That is it. So that was a long one, but thanks for joining us. Hope you enjoyed the whole background story of Coalcracker. Brooke will be doing a video here soon on her get home bag. It's going to be awesome. And as always, check us out, coalcrackerbushcraft.com for all our classes, our gear, and our blog. And until next video.
Stay in the woods.